oh yeah yeah, 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 yeah.
The path of awakening is not about becoming who you are. Rather, it is about unbecoming who you are not. With this quote by Albert Schweitzer, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. It's a snowy wonderland out there today, springtime in Colorado. My name is Janet Evans, and I will be the worship leader for today's service. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. If you are a new visitor, please email our office manager, Amy Zinn, and let us know how you found us. You will find her email in the Zoom chat. Our church website has a great deal of information about the church and activities. There will be a free singing workshop with vocal activist Melanie Demore today at 1:30. To register, please follow the link posted in the chat. We're not running Spotlight video today, so if you want to see the speaker, you'll need to click on Speaker View. It's a toggle switch between Gallery View and Speaker View. It truly is a snow day for us today, so grant us some grace if things go slightly awry. We've seen some internet issues. Now, please ensure your microphones remain muted and join us for worship.
As we prepare our hearts and minds for worship, hear these words of invocation from my colleague, Reverend Gary Kowalski, who said, quote, "With faith to face our challenges, with love that casts out fear, with hope that trusts tomorrow, we accept this day as the gift it is, a reason for rejoicing," unquote. Blessed be and welcome home.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
If you have a personal chalice or candle near your computer, please get ready to light it. We invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, the street or the neighborhood, or what city if you're joining us from outside Boulder County. Now, I'd like to invite Paige Henson to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paige Henson, and I've been attending UUCB since 2018. I was raised as a practicing Catholic. My father's brother is a Catholic priest, and I went to church school every Wednesday and Sunday. I actually enjoyed going to Mass as a child. I enjoyed the rituals, the singing, and the opportunity to reflect on how to be a better person each week. As a teenager, I sometimes harbored doubts about the existence of God. I was particularly troubled that bad things happen to innocent people. Then, when I was 15 years old, my older brother Andrew died in a car accident at the age of 18. It was impossible to discern a meaning in this event. It was clear to me that this was a random, senseless tragedy. That's when I stopped attending church and gave up my own belief in God. Fast forward to a few years ago. Now I had children of my own, and I wanted to share with them the experience I had growing up of a weekly moral reflection. But I wanted something for myself too. Something was missing in my own life. I don't remember what the topic was at my first service at UUCB. I do, however, remember crying a lot. And UUCB is still the place and time where I cry. UUCB touches a part of my soul that was dormant for many years. It's the part of me that feels deeply, that cares, that wonders. I may not have God anymore, but in UUCB, I have a spiritual community that allows me to connect with a higher power. It's the power of being a broken human being held by others like me. I am committed to UUCB because I believe that the world needs us to be fully human together. I light this chalice in gratitude for this church.
We now invite all those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we all say aloud our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine.
So be it.
In this deep connection with all of life, let us tune into our own joys and concerns. Let's take some moments of stillness and silence to check in with our own self, to see what is on our mind and on our heart today. In the quiet of your own thoughts, I invite you to lift up all that weighs on you now: grief, anxiety, fear, pain, whatever it is. Let us hold this together in silence. Let us also turn our minds and our hearts to those we love, holding them with love, acknowledging their painful challenges and sufferings. And I invite you now to share your concerns in the chat box so that your community of love and accountability can hold it all with you. I will name a few of them, but know that all is seen and heard and held. Concern for all that heavy snow, for those who are without places to shelter in it, for those who need to shovel it. We, as always, hold up our frontline workers, our teachers, our doctors and nurses, those keeping our shelves stocked and our world moving. Amy, we are with you and your mom as you move through this time of uncertainty. Know that our love will be with you. Amy's mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this week, and we can only imagine the emotions that come along with that. So please reach out to us as you need. You have others moving into treatment. Sandy Hamstra will be starting her chemo this week. That bring you healing. May you be surrounded by love. The loss of Michaela's father-in-law, Dave, and all those who are mourning that loss, especially her mother-in-law, Pat, with you in those impossible moments. We know there is more, much more on your hearts and minds, some just not quite ready to come out in public yet. We love you and hold all of that impossibleness with you. Please continue posting. But we're going to transition to offer some love. We're going to tap into our hearts and let the joy break free. Please share with us that which you are grateful for, that which is joyfully bursting forth from you today. Yes, good snowy Sunday. Definitely, if you are a snow lover, this is a wonderful weekend for you. Thank you, Will, for reminding us that we are in the midst of pre-candidating, and our amazing search committee is secretly doing awesome stuff with our pre-candidates, showing them the building and meeting with them and spending all this time with them. So thank you for all who are doing that great work, and we just can't wait to hear more about it. That's all. Yes, the moisture our earth needs. It's certainly out there, is it not, Dorothy? Thank you for that reminder. A birthday greeting to Noor Amina's stealth sister, Judith. I don't know what stealth sister means, but I like that term. I'll have to find out. Successful surgery for Janelle's father-in-law. That's good to hear. Yeah, some art and science fun with the kids this morning from Rev Dana and Sophie. I bet that was a great time. Our kids are doing Minecraft chalice making and stuff we just can't even imagine they're doing. It's great. And for power, yes, for our electricity. Sounds like Bonnie got it back just in the nick of time. Reed is thankful for another day of good health, family, and friends, and UU community. I'm with you there. Yes, the vaccines are happening. We all see that. So much joy here. I love it. I could keep reading these joyful posts, but I know we've got other business to attend to today too. But thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. I needed it. Let me also say, for all these blessings and concerns, as well as those that remain silently on our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. And I am always so grateful for the many ways you continue to bless each other. We're going to move out of our official joys and concerns, but we're going to stick with that feeling for a little while longer, because it's been a year, quite a year, and we want to talk about that and mark it for a moment. So you may remember that just about 1 year ago, everything changed. While a dawning awareness that something wasn't quite right had crept up to each of us at its own pace for a few months, in my family, we will forever remember Friday, March 13th, 2020, as the day that marked the end of what we now call the time before. Collectively, humanity has been tested in a way that none of us could have anticipated just 12 months ago. And while it's been a year full of more loss than can be adequately summed up in numbers, it's not all been bad. We've watched as our frontline workers sacrificed for the good of others. We've witnessed our scientists rise to the occasion in record time, not only with testing protocols and vaccines, but with advice that has prevented most of us from ever having to test positive in the first place. We've been given an opportunity to reevaluate and reconsider how we have been living our lives. We are a different people than we were a year ago, and many of us refuse to go back to that old normal that wasn't really serving us anyways. So we would like to invite you all into a ritual of remembrance, of letting go, and of looking forward. To lead this ritual, I will hand it over to our awesome worship leader, Janet.
So, last month, we invited you to begin creating your own altar or personal worship space by collecting 3 memorable things. For today's service, we asked you to bring one item from nature to add to your worship space. Some ideas include a special stone, a leaf, a pine cone, a feather, or even a vial of snow melt. I wonder where we could get that. If you didn't have a chance to gather a physical item, then simply visualize something from nature that is meaningful to you. We invite you to consider this item as a totem, a sacred object that symbolizes what you want to carry forward into the new year. Or it may symbolize what you are letting go, the loss of a dear friend or a family member, for example. I found a soft feather while hiking this month. To me, it symbolizes the abundance and beauty of nature, that despite this pandemic and so many losses, spring will return. I carry forward hope. During this upcoming musical interlude, please enter in the chat what item you chose and what it means to you. Are you letting go of something, or are you carrying something forward?
Finally, as we mark this bittersweet anniversary, I invite you to hear these words adapted from Marta Kirby Capo. There are those among us who have endured loss in the past year. May their hope be uplifted again in this community of faith. There are those among us who have dared to imagine new ways in this past year. May they find renewed strength to keep going. There are those among us who have wrestled with questions that seem to have no answer this past year. May they find sanctuary in this community of faith. There are those among us who have cherished an unexpected joy in the past year. May their gladness be celebrated. As we commit to continue our free and responsible search for truth, may we again covenant to honor the many paths that have led us to this community and this moment. Looking backward, we are ready to move ahead together. Ashe, and may it be so.
Practice giving things away, not just things you don't care about, but things you do like. Remember, it is not the size of a gift, it is its quality and the amount of mental attachment you overcome that count. So don't bankrupt yourself on a momentary positive impulse only to regret it later. Give thought to giving. Give small things carefully and observe the mental processes going along with the act of releasing the little thing you like. Thus ends our reading by Buddhist author Robert A.F. Thurman.
Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiswaha. 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 Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiswaha.
Thank you. Loving the music here in this congregation. Music was also a big thing in my house growing up, mostly led by my father's tastes, which for his generation ran predictably in the direction of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, CCR, and Dylan. Indeed, in my house, rock and roll was king. And so I had a great education in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of rock, simply by hearing and later playing through my dad's record collection myself. But even without that, I have a feeling I would still be familiar with the song Rock Around the Clock, the 1950s song that is generally regarded as the one that brought rock and roll into pop culture, both in the United States and around the world. But I learned a very interesting thing about Rock Around the Clock from a book written by Derek Thompson entitled Hitmakers: The Science of Popularity in the Age of Distraction. Anyone else feel distracted ever these days? According to Thompson, while it's true that, quote, on July 9th, 1955, Rock Around the Clock became the first rock and roll recording to hit the top of Billboard's pop charts, a feat it repeated on charts around the world, unquote. Its road to popularity, however, was hardly guaranteed or swift. In truth, the song had debuted well over a year earlier, in May of 1954, and had been completely ignored. No top of the charts, not even close. So what happened in the intervening year that made it so popular and historic? Did the song get better? Well, a tiny little small nothing of a thing, an accident of history really, is what happened. And as is so often the case, it made all the difference in the world. At the time, an actor by the name of Glenn Ford was preparing for a movie that would be called Blackboard Jungle and would be a huge hit, playing on screens around the world. And when the producer of the movie mentioned to Glenn Ford that they were still looking for a piece of music for the opening credits that would speak to the younger generation, Glenn raided his son's record collection and fell in love with this little unknown song no one was talking about at all, called Rock Around the Clock, which ended up playing not only in the title sequence of the huge hit movie, but several other times throughout the film. And blammo, this song that no one had noticed a year ago suddenly became the most popular song in the country and then the world, and many would say opened the floodgates for rock and roll as a mainstream viable commercial product, and all that came after it. No big deal. And in his excellent book, Mr. Thompson asked the question, why did a song that was initially dismissed as not interesting to the masses suddenly become regarded as one of the best and most important songs of all time? Still to this day, Rock Around the Clock is included in almost every top 50 list of best songs. But for the first year of its release, no one thought it was worth listening to. And his point is that things do not become popular for the reason that we think they do, namely that they are the best version of something, whether it be music or electronics or politicians. In reality, the actual quality of something turns out to matter very little in how popular it becomes. The startling conclusion about what actually makes something popular or not that Mr. Thompson came to when researching the topic was that it comes down to two things. The first is obvious: distribution. You could write the greatest book in the history of literature, but if you can't get it in front of eyeballs, it doesn't matter. So for example, in the case of Rock Around the Clock, while the song didn't change from May of 1954 to July of 1955, its distribution sure did. Suddenly, it was on every movie screen in America and then the world 3 times a show. But of course, distribution alone is not enough. Customers won't just buy anything because they see it in a lot of places. It's just not quality that's the important driver. It turns out that the magic ingredient is actually familiarity with just a hint of novelty. Or as Thompson puts it in his book, quote, most consumers are simultaneously neophilic, curious to discover new things, and deeply neophobic, afraid of anything that's too new. The best hit makers are gifted at creating moments of meaning by marrying new and old, anxiety and understanding. They are architects of familiar surprises, unquote. Architects of familiar surprises. I love that little turn of phrase that says so much about how our minds work. Desperate for change and terrified of it at the same time. Think for a second about the dominance of sequels and remakes in the movie theater. Nothing is as sure a hit as something you already love with a little twist. This relationship of new and old allows us to feel like we're making a change, doing something new, even when we are in actuality returning to a well-worn groove in our soul. So, what does all of this have to do with us and UUCB, and why am I talking about it on a Canvas Sunday as the snow falls in March?
Hey.
Nope.
Hey, yeah.
Someone's talking
Good.
to me.
How are you?
Might want to mute yourself in there. Well, I assume that this congregation wants to continue growing for many reasons, but certainly one of them would be in order to make sure our life-giving message of liberal spirituality is accessible to more and more people that need to hear it. And in terms of this congregation growing, I see both some really good news in this book and some clear indications of where there is work that still needs to be done. I'm a minister, so I'm going to start off with the good news. I think that Unitarian Universalism writ large has put us in a great position for the second part of the findings, the part about familiar surprises, because that's exactly what Unitarian Universalism is. In some sense, especially in worship practices, we're not so different from whence we came. The very familiar Protestant Christianity and its hymn sandwich of a 1-hour Sunday service with a 15 to 20 minute sermon given by a minister. But we have also made some very important departures from Protestantism in terms of core belief. As you know, we are not a religion that requires you to believe in a specific set of dogma. While all spiritual communities claim a wide welcome, I believe we provide one in a truly radical way. So I think we're in great shape when it comes to giving people that balance of new and old that they don't even know they're seeking. That familiar surprise that will get them interested enough to stick around and discover the depth. But then there's the other half of the ledger, that part about distribution. Here, we definitely have some work to do. Simply having an important message and beautiful programming to offer the wider community isn't enough. The best idea doesn't win when it stays unshared and the coolest product in the world grows dusty on the shelves without the right advertising campaign. And just because we have updated the old Christian message perfectly for our time, it isn't worth anything to anyone if we keep it to ourselves. And my strong belief is that in the near future, this congregation will be given a perfect opportunity to reintroduce yourself to the larger community. Because sometime in the next 6 or 9 months, this congregation will begin to gather physically again. And when you do, know that there will be literally thousands of other local people that have not only spent the last year holed up with almost nobody, but have also spent much of that time doing a serious reevaluation of their lives. When we come out of this pandemic, there is going to be a stampede of people looking for resources and communities to connect with in order to make these shifts we've all been dreaming of. And what better place to take that next step than with this congregation? They got to know about you. In UUCB, I see a congregation that holds some of the most important space in this larger community and one that provides resources that exist literally nowhere else. Safe space for families of adults or children who don't conform to society's expectations for them. Safe space for people who follow their love to same-sex relationships or who live on some point of the gender spectrum other than male or female. I see our abundant resources for kids who are growing into adult bodies and need to learn in a safe and non-judgmental environment about all the opportunities and challenges that are waiting for them on the other side of puberty in high school. And I see a potential course catalog of enriching opportunities for adults to embrace their values in deeper and more meaningful ways as well. I see a group of people that are always ready to answer the call of love, no matter where it comes from, and who are up for the challenge of growing spiritually together. This is an extremely special and vital community. But it turns out that just having an incredible message of radical love and resources to offer isn't enough. For this congregation to take the next step, we need to embrace the E word, as I like to call it. That word that gives so many of us the willies. Yes, we must become on fire UU evangelists, bragging about the good work and big heart of this congregation to our friends and neighbors, because you all are our best and most cost-efficient distribution model. I've known UUs who have great friends that are UUs who never knew, because they never mentioned it to each other. Don't be them. And besides all of you spreading the good word, taking that risk, the other thing it takes for UUCB to get the word out, to keep doing the amazing work we're doing, is money. Now, this is a Canvas sermon, so I hope you're not too surprised. But the truth is, this vital, beautiful, radically welcoming congregation needs your financial support to make all of this happen. We need to pay our amazing staff. We have our incredible building to care for, curriculum to buy. Our committees have hopeful plans for exciting projects in the year to come, and it goes on and on. It takes real money to make this community run. I remember back in seminary, the first time my future wife, Nicole, told me what she planned to give back to her future church, and I was shocked. The idea of giving a meaningful chunk of my salary back to my employer just didn't make any sense to me. I believe we even had a little fight, imagining our future budget squabbles. It's always good to fight about things that haven't even happened yet. But as would be the case more times than I'd care to admit, she was right. By the time I got to my internship and really started to throw my lot in with the congregation I served, I couldn't imagine it any other way, because there is literally no other place I could give my hard-earned money to that I would feel better about. I know firsthand what we do with every penny that someone is generous enough to trust us with, and all I want to do is increase that. So I know many of you have already been contacted by our awesome Canvas team, or already made a date to visit with them and give your pledge for next year. And if you haven't been contacted yet or gotten in your pledge, don't worry. This time comes for all of us. Of course, this special year took a big special effort. So I want to make sure to thank every member of our biggest UUCB pledge team ever. We had an incredible team. So just let these names roll over you for a moment. Sharon Ballou, Allison Churnside, John Cuddington, Charmin DeRockstar, Robert Evans, Janet Evans, Diane Ewing, Paige Henshin, Diana Maiden, Joe Manternack, Catherine Marsh, Caitlin Moore, Jim Rowe, Ed Self, Nancy Spear, Duncan Swenson, Carol Teal, Whitney Wheelis, and Christine Zanoni. Wow. And I would be remiss if I didn't add our office administrator, Amy Zen, who helped this group tremendously. So please join me wherever you are in giving these awesome people a standing ovation. This is really what makes this place go. Thank you so much. I mean, really, there's no way that we can let you know how much this means to the functioning and health and love of our congregation. My hope is that this time, for all of you, when you approach your decision about what to give, that you think long and hard about what you can responsibly share with this beautiful congregation. And if you've already pledged, don't worry, you can update that pledge. We're happy to take an update. But please don't just mindlessly roll over your pledge. And unless you are already giving as much as you responsibly can, I ask that you take a step towards increasing the amount of your treasure you share with this beloved community. Even if it is just $10 or $25 more a month or a year, it makes a huge difference. As a member of one of my previous congregations was fond of saying around this time of year, give until it feels good. And it should feel good to support this beacon in the storm of life, this familiar surprise that is UUCB. May it be so. Ashe.
This month, we share our offering plate with Intercambio Uniting Communities. Intercambio is a nonprofit dedicated to teaching English and connecting people. They provide English language education, resources, and training that create meaningful connections. They build cultural awareness and they inspire confidence. Group and one-on-one classes were at one time in person, but they shifted to an online model last year. Let's watch this short video featuring some learners and educators.
Our teacher, Deepa, she's the best, I think, because he pushed us every time to speak, to interact, to tell about our weekends, and she's a good teacher. She's all the time smiling and she's happy.
It's also a container for many different cultures inside this room, of this online room. We can share it together like very, like friend, like yes, and this, if we meet like many times.
There's some, stuff that you get face to face that you miss, but I really think you can still meet someone and teach them, and they meet their other classmates. I think, especially just the nature of things now, I think people are even looking, after class to keep connections. I know my classes we use, WhatsApp groups, and they send each other, Mother's Days and Father's Days greetings and things of that sort. So just stuff, and maybe you see it now that we're doing things electronically, but it's been really good.
You can make a donation now using the link posted in our chat, by sending a check to UUCB, or by scanning the QR code with your mobile phone. Please be as generous as you can. We will now receive the offering. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. all that is alive, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
As we prepare to re-enter the world, hear these words of benediction from Simone de Beauvoir, who said, quote, "That's what I consider true generosity. You give your all, and yet you always feel as if it cost you nothing." Unquote. Ashe. May it be so.
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way.
We invite you to stay with us in our snowy Zoom rooms for a time of online fellowship and discussion. Barb and Fred are here to tell us, well, how is this going to work, Barb and Fred?
Yes, good morning. I'm Fred Cole.
I'm Barb Richards.